I was looking at some stuff on YouTube the other day, as I do from time to time, and I came across this. I think it was a program about a woman who'd written some fictional books on 9/11. I don't quite know why, but people seem to get the impression that these fictional books were actually a fictional account of a supposed, what she thought really happened, I think, is probably the best way of putting it. Now, I don't have a great deal of interest in 9/11, to be perfectly honest. I'm certain the historical account is true and accurate. And I think the people that are saying there were no planes and it was all a con job, it was all set up by the government, are completely wrong. But I hadn't come across this one before, but apparently this woman claimed to be an air hostess or something for 30 years. People had looked into her background and apparently that wasn't the case. But some of the things she was saying made my ears sort of prick up immediately. I thought, this is just absolute rubbish. I mean, the first thing she said was that the aircraft that were used on 9/11, they didn't actually crash into the buildings. They went off to some Air Force base by remote control. They were remotely controlled, and that there was a remote control system called the flight termination system that would allow people to take control of the aircraft from the ground and fly them to wherever they want. Now, I'd heard this sort of thing before, and I thought that's completely illogical. No one in their right mind is going to fit a system like that to a commercial airliner, because, people will find a way of hacking it, and airliners will be crashing into tall buildings and nuclear power stations and all sorts of things. Makes no sense whatsoever. So I just did about 2 minutes worth of Googling and found out that, to my surprise, that Boeing Honeywell had actually come up with a system that would allow them to do this if it was installed in their aircraft. Now, they didn't get a patent for it until 2006, which is 5 years after the event, and then they decided that, I don't quite know why this didn't actually occur to the people, the smart people at Boeing and Honeywell, that what would happen is precisely what I just said would happen. They would be hacked, and they would be flown into tall buildings and nuclear power stations and everything else. So it was never, ever implemented. It's never been implemented on a passenger-carrying civilian aircraft. It's never been installed on an airliner, passenger-carrying airliner, a remote control flight system. So that was the first thing. As soon as I heard that, I thought, ridiculous, too ridiculous for words. Second thing she said was aluminium plane can't fly straight through the wall of a steel frame building because the wings are hollow and they're aluminium and they're full of fuel. But she's got no idea about how aircraft are engineered. Aircraft are extremely strong. There's a lot of ribs and wings, and we all saw it happen. So the amount of force involved, 200-ton aircraft travelling at 700 miles an hour, whatever it was, is going to go through pretty much anything. So I thought, that's just ridiculous. This woman is completely clueless. Then she went on to say that the mobile phone calls were impossible, because aircraft are a Faraday cage. Now, I thought that was unusual terminology for an air hostess. I don't hear many air hostesses talking about Faraday cages, but she might have looked that up somewhere and quite like the sound of the term. This is, of course, absolute rubbish. I'll tell you why. Because the Windows, it's all down to, you need to know a little bit about radio. You see, at that time, 2001, the mobile telephone network was CDMA, operated at about 850 megahertz, something like that. Now, the wavelength of those mobile phone signals is about 33 centimetres, which means that those signals will go through any holes in any tin can, probably half that size. Now, most aircraft windows are going to be more than 33 centimetres tall. So it's not, the signals from to and from the phones are going to have absolutely no trouble getting in and out of the aircraft. Now, people have said, oh yeah, but it's still got to get to the towers on the ground. The towers on the ground. A couple of things to consider here. One is The aircraft probably weren't at cruising altitude when these calls were made, because as soon as they were hijacked they would have been turned and they would have been losing altitude all the way to the towers. And secondly, I came across this rather interesting footage that I think I should show you. Now, it's got sound as well, which is also interesting. So let's just go to the YouTube footage. Right, here we go. Now this is this footage was taken on the North Tower of the World Trade Center, July the 15th, 2001. So June, what was it? July, August, September. So a couple of months before the event, this was taken. And I think this is quite interesting, and I'll tell you why. It sounds like that breakthrough he's getting is probably from a television transmitter. But this here is a mobile phone cell. There you go. So it's on top of the World Trade Center. So the signal doesn't have to get down to a mast on the ground. The signal only has to get to here, and this would have been fully operational right up until the point of impact, maybe even after. So yes, I thought that was quite interesting. As this guy's panning around, the rooftops of these two buildings are covered in antennas, and it makes perfect sense, of course, to have a mobile phone cell on the roof. So I think there'll be no problem with mobile phone calls from the aircraft. The signals will get in and out through the windows, no problem. And you've got a cell tower stuck on top of building North Tower of whatever it was, one of the towers anyway. So just a little bit of 9/11, just a bit of 9/11 twaddle. It's not really my thing, 9/11. Not worth spending any time on, but I just thought it would be worth pointing that out, because there's so much rubbish, absolute rubbish, that you hear about 9/11 from all of the, well, from a lot of these conspiracy clowns. It's one of their favourite subjects. I don't really need to say that Dr. Judy Wood is as nutty as a fruitcake, and of course she's never ever said where these directed energy weapons might have been actually housed or installed. Yeah, it's just absolute rubbish that you hear about this sort of thing. So there you go. I just thought that was worth showing, because as this guy says, this is rare video. So there's not much video out there of the roof of the World Trade Center in July 2001, and I think that tells you all you need to know about how hard it would be to make mobile phone calls from aircraft. Alright, that's just a very, very quick video. As always, thanks for watching, and perhaps I'll catch you again.